So we just got word that Kai Sotto and Chet Holmgren are going to have an exhibition game against each other for the NBA season, in the preseason obviously. So let's get down and let's check out these two amazing basketball players before that game happens. Let's get down, let's check it out. So one thing that we have seen that is hugely different with Kai Sotto since the last time we broke these two players down is the aggressiveness that he has getting to that rim and, of course, getting those rebounds. Here he gets a tip slam. So what worked really well here was, of course, his main defender. Of course, then at this time was playing help defense. Switched off of Kai Sotto and left Kai Sotto wide open. At this time, Kai Sotto can get in perfect position for that rebound and, of course, tip slam. I'm going to tell you right now, anytime that you have a player who drives down baseline and you're on the opposite post, get to the middle of the key, that is going to give you the best option for the rebound or kick out pass for the layup or floater. One cheat code, I guess you could say, also is, of course, if you're on the opposite corner as to a player who's driving towards the basket, if you cut down, you are going to be in prime position to score. There's a reason for this, and that is because, of course, your defenders a help defender in this case, which will allow you to get some easy baskets. The reason being is in man-to-man defense, your defender needs to come over and play help. At that time, the man who's up here needs to move down, and the player who's up here needs to move over to that side. If there's no rotation in that help defense, what you're going to have is a wide open player in the corner for a three-point shot, or if it's a big man, he can then, of course, cut back door and be wide open for a dunk or even a layup or floater. Kai Sotto is also a pretty good three-point shooter. Here he has a player who is, of course, closing out on him. Because he's a good shooter, he can get that defender up into the air. If that defender is, of course, facing out towards that side, you want to always attack the opposite side, which would be his top foot. By attacking his top foot, it's going to take more time for that player to turn around and try to recover. You now have a wide open lane, and when you've got that wide open lane, you need to keep that ball high and limit your dribbles. There's a reason for this. So if you take, for example, more than that one dribble that's here, this would be a gather step, obviously. If he was to take a secondary dribble, that defender right there would have picked off that dribble. The reason being is what we see right there. He gets his hand in. Kai Sotto keeps that ball high. This is what you need to do if you're attacking the rim. If you keep that ball low, you're going to get shorter guys who are going to be trying to pick that off. You need to keep that ball high, and by keeping it high, of course, it's going to be easier to shoot over top of big defenders, but also you don't get picked off as easily. And for a big man, he's also very good at running the floor in transition. Here we see a ball handler, we see a teammate, and we see Kai Sotto. Kai Sotto has an open lane, and he needs to take it, and that's what he did. This man decided to cover the ball handler, which is good. This guy needs to be more towards the middle. He wasn't. And that pass was perfectly timed, and of course, the jump was perfectly timed for the reverse dunk. One mistake some of the players on the team that I coach do make is when they cut to the basket, they cut behind the defender. You don't want to do that, and Kai Sotto doesn't do that. He cuts in front of his defender, and then he gets position on that defender. By getting possession, that means getting his feet wide and making sure that his defender is behind him. He has one hand on the defender and one hand up in the air so that he is basically calling at this time the pass. He gets that pass, he goes up with two hands to get that ball, and then he's able to then finish at the rim. And let's not forget that he can hit three-point shots as well. Here, this is really good footwork. He gets that pass from that left side. He then steps in right-left into his shot, and because he's a left-handed player, he wants to kick that left foot down last. That's going to allow his left side to get in line, and of course, he has a pretty good shooting form for somebody who's 7'3". Now, when it comes to Chet Holmgren, he does have a lot better handles than Kai Sotto. I will say that. And, of course, he's able to finish at the rim just like Kai Sotto as well. See, the thing with Chet Holmgren here we see especially is his handles. But the thing with him is he was actually trained as a point guard first, not a center first. That's going to be the main difference between Kai Sotto and Chet Holmgren. And they both kind of have similar shooting forms in a way. Kai Sotto's shooting form brings the ball just a bit more higher over top of his head. Now, There are issues with that because defenders could come behind and, of course, swat. But when you're 7'3", I'm not too sure if you care because it's probably not going to happen. But Chet Holmgren also does have a nice shooting form with his shoulder and elbow in line to the basket. Now, we didn't see this when it comes to Kai Sotto as much with the highlights, but Kai Sotto does have some good passing ability, but Chet Holmgren does too. And the reason why this is so important for big guys is because it draws the big centers out of the key so that you've got other players who are cutting to the rim from multiple directions. And because you've removed the big man from the key, it allows smaller guys to score at the rim. Which is again why we want to see big guys being able to shoot threes. It removes the big guy from down low and it forces them higher so that we have smaller guys who can score easier. Something that Chet Holmgren has too is the mid-range game. Here he spins off of his defender and has really good footwork. And the footwork being after the spin move when he's gathering, he gathers technically on that right foot. The reason why this is important because now he can have that foot well out in front, which creates that space, but also it's going to allow him to be able to then push back with momentum, go off of his left leg, which then allows him to kick up that right leg, and that allows again, that shoulder and elbow to be in line with the basket. And of course, that ball is over top of that upper arm so that he has that shooting triangle to hit pretty much every shot. Now, this is how good that footwork is. He has not gathered the ball yet, and he's in the air. This is what they call a gather step because he hasn't gathered the ball yet, and we have to remember that you're allowed steps between your dribble. He hasn't picked up the ball yet, which means that as soon as he picks up the ball, he's on that foot. That means that he can take one step there and then technically one more step if he really wanted to, because you're allowed 2 steps in basketball before it's a travel. However, here he takes 1 step because the reason why this is a better option than taking 2 steps is because he can get that right foot up. If he was to take technically 1 more step, it would look kind of awkward, probably get a travel call, and of course it would be his left leg for right arm, which is a very difficult shot, versus a right leg and right arm shot, which is a much easier shot to make. And just like Kai Sotto, he's able to block shots at the rim as well. Between the two players, I think that this could be a very good showcase preseason game. It's really going to be putting both of these players up against each other, and of course the Filipino community is going to be really hyped and want to see Kai Sotto drop a ton of points. Me personally, I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game because Kai Sotto has that pro experience already, while Chet Holmgren really doesn't. He doesn't have much pro experience at all versus Kai Sotto. The reason behind that is because Kai Sotto's already played a year of pro already, and he's played at the senior FIBA level too. So, personally, I think that this could be a very good match, a very interesting match, and a pretty well even match. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.